Welcome to this explainer. We usually think of workplace conflict as this massive red flag, right? Like, if people are arguing, the team must be broken. Well, actually, what if I told you that a specific kind of conflict is literally the secret engine behind the world's most creative, high-performing teams? Today, we're going to dive right into the fascinating science of team dynamics and figure out how to turn disagreements into your ultimate performance driver. Let's get into it.
There's this great quote that says, "Conflict is like the common cold. Everyone knows what it is, but understanding its causes and how to treat it is much more challenging." And honestly, that hits the nail on the head. We all dread it. It causes stress, anxiety. It just makes work miserable sometimes. We catch it and we just want it gone as fast as possible. But what if treating it doesn't actually mean wiping it out completely?
Okay, let's dive into this. Is team conflict always a bad thing? The short answer, no, absolutely not. We kind of fall into this trap of thinking that a quiet team, a team with zero arguments, is a healthy team. But research actually shows that a total lack of conflict usually just means people are silencing themselves. They're biting their tongues just to keep the peace. It's like everyone politely agreeing to eat at a terrible restaurant because nobody wants to be the one to speak up. And when that happens, you end up with groupthink, apathy, and a team that honestly just never reaches its full potential.
Section 1. 3 Faces of Friction.
So to really master this, we have to realize that not all arguments are created equal. Researchers tell us that intra-team conflict, which is really just friction from perceived differences, basically shows up in 3 distinct ways: relationship, task, and process conflict. And if you're leading a team, you absolutely need to spot the difference between these 3, like instantly.
Let's start with the one we all seriously hate, relationship conflict. This one stems from personal differences. We're talking interpersonal tension, personal attacks, real distress. When you picture that typical workplace dread, yeah, this is usually it. It's toxic, it's destructive, and it actively tanks performance. There is literally no upside here. But here's where things get super interesting. Task conflict. This is a disagreement over the actual work, the goals, the methods, the ideas themselves. It's a debate about the absolute best way to solve a problem. Notice the difference? Unlike relationship conflict, task conflict doesn't attack the person, it attacks the idea. And as you'll see in just a second, this is exactly the kind of healthy debate we want to cultivate.
Finally, we've got process conflict. This is the controversy over how the work actually gets done. Who's doing what? What are the logistics? A huge part of this is what researchers call contribution conflict. When it feels like effort isn't equal. Think social loafing, or that one teammate who conveniently sneaks out right before cleanup time. This type of friction is incredibly dangerous, actually, because if you don't manage it, it escalates insanely fast into that toxic relationship conflict we just talked about.
Section 2. The inverted U relationship. So, how much conflict should we actually aim for? Well, think of it like the Goldilocks principle. Imagine a curve. On the far left, step 1, you have way too little conflict. And like we said, that just leads to apathy and groupthink. On the far right, step 3, you've got way too much conflict, leading to total stress and paralysis. But right there in the middle, step 2, that is the sweet spot. A moderate level of task conflict actually pushes the team to explore different perspectives, and that stimulates peak performance and creativity.
And the research completely backs this up. To quote the literature directly, a medium level of task-related conflict is often viewed as optimal because it represents a situation in which a healthy debate of ideas takes place. Think about that paradigm shift for a second. We actually want to stimulate healthy debate, not silence it. We want people actively pushing back on ideas so the final product is as bulletproof as it can possibly be.
Section 3. Constructive versus destructive conflict.
Now, balancing right at the top of that inverted U curve is definitely tricky. And this brilliantly illustrates a crucial divergence. Constructive friction stays laser-focused on the task. It sparks creativity, it pulls in diverse perspectives. Destructive friction, on the flip side, shifts focus right to the relationship. It gets personal, causes distress, and just completely shuts down the free flow of ideas. As a leader, your absolute main goal is keeping your team strictly on the constructive side of that line.
But how do you do that?
Well, the absolutely crucial prerequisite for keeping conflict constructive is psychological safety. This is a team environment built on trust, a place where people feel totally comfortable expressing ideas and, even making mistakes without worrying about being embarrassed or punished. Destructive conflict instantly wrecks psychological safety. And once that safety net is gone, your team stops exploring new perspectives, and learning just comes to a dead stop.
Let's look at how a lack of safety builds into what's known as the incivility spiral. It usually starts pretty small, maybe with a simple process conflict. Let's say someone is constantly arriving late, or maybe they're free riding on a project. That poor behavior triggers reciprocal negativity. Maybe a passive-aggressive sticky note, a muttered comment. Boom. That erupts into full-blown relationship conflict, and suddenly the psychological safety of the whole team just plummets. A simple logistical issue just completely poisoned the entire team's climate.
Section 4. Playing devil's advocate.
Okay, let's ground this theory in reality for a second. Imagine a design team. Honestly, they are the nicest group of people you will ever meet. They get along flawlessly, zero relationship conflict, and their social cohesion is just off the charts. Sounds great, right? Well, there's a massive problem. Their work is totally apathetic and uninspired. They are suffering from severe groupthink because nobody wants to rock the boat and upset their friends. They are completely stuck on the far left of our inverted U curve.
The manager realizes they desperately need some friction, but obviously they don't want to destroy the team's friendships. So they implement a brilliant fix. They explicitly assign someone to play the critic or devil's advocate role. As the source material puts it, the critic role includes devil's advocate behaviors that go against the assumptions being made by the team. By making it a formal role, the manager is basically institutionalizing healthy task conflict. They are giving the team explicit permission to disagree.
And, hey, this isn't just theory. Massive companies do this every day. Take Intel, for example. They literally have a famous 4-hour training module just for new employees, entirely dedicated to what they call constructive confrontation. They explicitly teach their teams how to focus on facts, not personalities, and how to avoid getting defensive. They're actively training their people to engage in high-level task conflict without ever letting it slide into relationship conflict.
So back to our design team. The manager sets strict ground rules for the devil's advocate, pulling right from that Intel playbook. Number 1, focus only on the problem. Number 2, absolutely no personal attacks. And number 3, base all your arguments on cold, hard facts. By doing this, the team successfully introduced the exact moderate level of task conflict they were missing. They safely explored different perspectives, tore apart the weak ideas, and built brilliant new ones, all without ruining their vibe or their social cohesion.
Section 5. Harnessing the friction. We've covered some really powerful concepts today. We've seen how avoiding arguments can literally hold your team back and how embracing the right kind of debate unlocks massive potential. So, as we wrap up this explainer, here are your key takeaways. First, if your team has zero conflict, view that as a warning sign for groupthink, not a badge of honor. Second, actively target that moderate task conflict, that sweet spot on the inverted U, by encouraging healthy debate over ideas. And third, protect your team's psychological safety above literally everything else. Shut down process and relationship conflicts the second they start, before they ever trigger that toxic incivility spiral. We started off by comparing conflict to the common cold, something to just fear and avoid at all costs. But hopefully, you now see it for what it really is, a high-performance tool. Like a scalpel that just requires a steady, skilled hand. So I want to leave you with a provocative question to chew on today. Now that you know the difference between constructive debate and destructive tension, how are you going to handle your team's very next disagreement? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I challenge you to go out there and start a really healthy debate.